and hopefully it will be available to you as you move forward in the grant process. On your screen, you do see your Extending the Dream Grant Committee for SACAC, and we are looking forward to, again, reading and evaluating your grant applications. And at this time, I'm going to ask our team members to introduce themselves. Katrina, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katrina Cole Garner, and I work at the Gwinnett School of Math, Science, and Technology in Gwinnett County, Georgia. This is my 3rd year serving on the committee, and I'm also a 2-time grant recipient. And so it's a pleasure to be able to give back and serve on the committee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Noah Pittman. I work at the University of Arkansas in the Honors College. This is my 4th year serving on the committee.
So my name is Marcelin Lindsay. I'm at St. Pius Catholic High School here in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is my 1st year on the committee.
Great, and I'm excited again to have such a great team to work with in looking through your materials to try to help to provide opportunities for your students. And with that, we're going to dive right in, and I think Katrina is going to kick us off. So Katrina, we're in your hands.
All right. So I know that many of you have had a chance to read and get a general understanding of what the grant is. I just want to give you a detailed description or overview. And so the Extending the Dream Grant is a fund that enables members of SACAC to establish and pay for special projects within your communities. The grant is awarded annually and is designed to serve college-bound students. Many recipients of the grant have served as advocates for creating pathways to college by pushing the limits on college access and also increasing awareness about the college search process. The ultimate goal is to make the dream of attending college a reality for college-bound students. Grants typically range anywhere from $500 to $3,700. And we do want you to note that this is a reimbursement grant, which essentially means your institution would need to be willing and able to front the money for any expenses. And then once the project is over and completed and you submit all of your original receipts and the Extending the Dream reimbursement form, you are then reimbursed for whatever funds were spent for your project. All right, let's talk a little bit about the application timeline. So as you know, the application is currently open and will remain open until March the 24th, which is the actual grant application deadline. Once all applications have been submitted, the committee will then take some time reading through your applications, and any of the applications that are selected for interviews, you will be notified during that 1st week of April, because the interviews will actually take place during the 2nd week of April, April 10th through the 14th. We realize that for any of our Georgia applicants, you all may be on spring break during the 1st week of April. So we do ask that you be intentional about checking your email at least once, so that if you are selected for an interview, you are not surprised when you return to school on April 10th if you are selected for an interview. And then after interviews are completed, there's a pretty quick turnaround for notification. And so during the week of April 17th through the 21st, anyone who has been awarded a grant will be notified by the committee. And then you have until December of 2023 to use your grant funds. So many of the projects will take place either during the summer or during the fall semester. And then once your project is done, you do have to submit any of the paperwork that we mentioned earlier within 30 days in order to get your reimbursement. All right, let's talk about the components of the application. So there are 3 parts to the application, and they're pretty simple and straightforward. And so you have the first part will ask you to list the primary contact person and the organization's information. Part 2 is where you're going to really detail out your project. And then part 3 is where you will provide a budget for your project. And I'll go into just a little bit more detail on this next slide. And so we do have to have at least one person who will serve as the primary contact for your project. We'll need that person's entire name, obviously, the name of the organization or the employer, any contact information, including mailing address, phone number, and email address. This next one is important, your SACAC membership status. Remember, we mentioned that the grant is open for SACAC members. And so if you are not yet a member, you still have time to do that. And if you work for a public school, SACAC membership is still free, and you can get that application in and become a member before the ETD application is due. You also want to list the type of organization. So whether you are a college or university, a public school, private school, community-based organization, that needs to be identified on your application. And then if you are a past ETD grant recipient, you want to make sure to indicate that on your application as well. We do want you to know that previous winners are not banned from becoming winners again. And so if you've had success in the past, we would love to support your continued projects.
All right, so Katrina went through the different components of the application. I'm going to focus a lot on part 2 of the application, starting out with the project details. Now, project name, that is really anything. Some people have creative names, some people are very simple. I wouldn't worry too much about that. But the detailed description of the project, this can really make a big difference, especially when we're deciding who we're going to interview from the applicant pool. So I want to go a little more detail and give you an example of what we consider a good project description. So this example comes from a Caminos program that we funded in the past from North Carolina. It's a pretty simple 3-sentence structure here. So it starts out right off the bat, what Caminos is. It's a 4-day camp for Latinx rising high school juniors and seniors. So you know right off the bat, looking at a camp as opposed to a college visit. Second sentence talks about what they're doing on the campus. So one of the issues I've seen in the past is people will say we're doing work on a campus or we're visiting a campus, but they don't tell us what they're going to do on the campus. Who are they going to meet with? What offices, what learning outcomes do you want from them? So really good description here. Career opportunities, discuss admissions process, different institutional types, experience the city of Raleigh as well. So it goes in more detail and just saying we're going to visit campus. And in the third sentence is really the goal. Better understanding path of vision to achieving higher education and to also build community ties. So that's a really good structure, I would say, for your project description. Who are you serving? What are you going to do? And what's the goal that you want? What learning outcomes do you want? So this is one we would consider to be a really good project description. So going on in the project details, we also want to know approximately how many students you're serving. Just give us a good estimate. I know sometimes these programs are taking place months later, and you're going to have RSVPs and registrations and such. But approximately how many students are going to be served. But also give us a good description why the population you plan to serve are most deserving. So we'll give you another example from that Caminos application. So what's good about this example is it gives us really good data about the population. It's one thing to say we're serving this larger population, but it goes into these students are second generation immigrants, approximately 20% are undocumented. You also see majority Pell eligible, majority of students come from 2 rural counties. Any data you can give us about the population, about the area they're from, if you're working at a public high school, any information about the public high school. You don't have to go too much in this in the previous section I just talked about with the general description, but any good data that you could provide about the population that is going to be served, that is really going to help your application. That can help your application stand in a positive way. And even it goes a little bit at the end into the family workshops they do bilingual case studies. Yeah, so we're also getting some information about the parents and the families they're coming from as well. But this is a very effective way to advocate for your students and why they are deserving to be served through this grant. And then going on in the project details, expected project date, give us an idea of when this project's actually going to take place. Any partners or collaborators, please list those as well. So if you're working with other nonprofits, organizations, please give us some information there. And then this is another really important part. How's the project going to be assessed? How are you going to figure out that you met those outcomes, met the goals that you intended? So we'll give you a further example of this right here. And so a lot of the grant applicants will do a pre and post test, especially if they're trying to figure out how much knowledge was gained by doing a campus visit or the program or really anything. But you just need to have some type of an assessment of being able to show us why this program turned out to be effective. And this is really important too. If you are applying multiple times, we've had people who apply each year. We want to know that you're conducting assessments so that the money we're giving is actually accomplishing what you intended to do in the first place. So I don't know about most, but a lot of them do a pre and post test, but it could be anything you think would be an effective assessment for the type of program that you're offering to students. All right, so I'm going to turn it back over to Cynthia, who's going to go more into the rest of the application.
Okay. Thank you, Katrina and Noah. That was very helpful. The next part of the application, part 3, is the budget. And I will tell you, and I think our committee members will agree, that this is where we spend a lot of time. Each of the applications for the ETD grant that is submitted requires that a budget be uploaded for committee review. So let's talk about that for just a little bit. What you see on your screen here is an example that is provided to you within the ETD grant application that kind of shows you a markup, if you will, of the kind of information that is helpful to us. Again, we as a committee spend a lot of time reviewing your budget, and you may very well be asked to prioritize the items within your budget. So it's important for you to know exactly how important each item is to your accomplishing the goals that you set out for your project. So some things to consider are to keep your budget very organized and detailed. Knowing everything you need to know about each line item is very important. We also want to know if you have secured funding from other sources, in addition to what you are applying for from ETD. We want you to know which of your line items in your budget are most important. You can bet if you are selected for an interview that you will be asked this question. So again, it's very important that you're thoughtful about your number 1, your number 2, your number 3 items that are most important to your having your project attain your goal. So when you look at this particular example, you have all of the items listed in order to have your project funded and have your project go over well. That may be materials and supplies. It could be transportation. It could be facility rental or any other thing. These are just some of the things that we see, but these items are not in any way indicative of all the things that you may list as items that you need. We want you to have a projected cost for each of the items. So you see that as a column to be filled in. Along with that, let us know if you are indeed attempting to secure or whether you have secured additional funding. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form a penalty if you are securing funds from other sources. We just want to know because it helps to give context to what you're asking for from the ETD committee. And then lastly, we want to know how much is it that you think you will need to request from us as a committee? So this is a sample. It's a great sample. It works. It's very clear cut. And again, it helps to give us a financial peek into what you may need for your project. Now, this is an example of a budget that was actually submitted. And this particular grant did receive from ETD an award of $2,655. The project budget was submitted by the Atlanta Public Schools a few years ago as they worked with students from 6 high schools and approximately 4,500 students to create programming related to college access and college awareness. Again, that was their focus. So from this budget, we could clearly see the projected cost for each of their items. We could also see how much of their projected cost they had already secured funding for outside of what they were requesting from ETD. And then finally, we see in the last column the amount needed. This was the amount that we were, focused on as a committee. So here is how we funded that. For their College Success Boot Camp, we funded $750. We funded $800 for we funded $800 for their post-secondary advising strategies. We did $200 toward their 2 scholarship seminars. We did $800 toward their college readiness curriculum and groups. And we funded $150 toward their college readiness information. So, we weren't able to fund the entire amount, but we did fund the $2,655. And sometimes you will say, that's a strange amount, but we do try to maximize all of the dollars that we are given by SACAC to spread across as many projects as possible. And we try to leave nothing on the table. And so sometimes if you're awarded, you may see a weird number like 2,655, but we're just trying to maximize all of the dollars to as many projects as possible. Anything, Katrina, Noah, Marceline, that you all would like to add here?
I would just add that I know we have not seen meals listed on any of the samples. And I know many times, especially in a public school setting, we're typically restricted from buying food, but I will say that ETD is willing to fund meals, lunches, box lunches, if that is a need for any of your projects.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you so much. Okay. So again, each application requires an uploaded budget. Again, we want to know if you're going to receive outside funding from additional sources. Provide the details. Again, that is not a penalty. We just want to know because it does help us to put your budget and your needs from us as an ETD committee in perspective. Gives us a clearer picture. So let's put all of these details together and let's take a look at what a strong application has looked like in the past. The Calvary Day School was an ETD grant recipient a few years ago. The grant lead was Aaron Chadwick, and they presented a grant called Cavaliers Exploring College during one of our most recent grant cycles. They received $2,000 for campus tours that supported 29 juniors. And here is the feedback that we got from Ms. Chadwick. in her own words, she said, "The generous grant that my school received from SACAC allowed us to take 29 juniors on college trips to 5 colleges. While the number of participants for them that year was low due to COVID, and the winter break cut our trip short by 1 college, we were committed to providing this opportunity to our students." So here were some things that she thought was noteworthy. One senior actually planned the route for the trip and the travel details. It was an amazing opportunity for that student to get involved in that way. 26 of the students who participated had never been on a college campus. 18 of the students had never stayed the night in another state. 6 of the students were first gen. 29 of the students that participated in the trip were able to participate in Stuff the Stadium, an activity at a college basketball game that they attended, and that allowed the students to experience student life and philanthropy on the college campus. All of the students added at least 1 college to their college list to apply for the next year. 26 students got lost on a self-guided tour of the campus and learned valuable map reading skills. And all of the students, all 29, did not want to return home. And so she ends by saying, "Words will never appropriately articulate what this grant meant to our students. After spending years of writing checks for SACAC, I never realized how life-changing this grant could be for my students, and we appreciate the support." So this feedback also gives you a look into how students can be impacted, the kinds of activities that you can plan for them, and the different kinds of ways they can get involved to experience the college culture and to enhance their interest in going to college. These kinds of details are important for us as a committee because we would love to fund everyone who applies for ETD, but we can't. So how you articulate every single portion of your grant is extremely important. You have to remember, we as a committee, we're not familiar with your communities, your students, your student needs, and all of those things that impact why you want to write a grant in the first place. So tell us everything. Give us vivid descriptions. Give us too much information as opposed to not enough, so that we can have clear pictures of who you're trying to serve, what the accomplishment or the goal is, and how that experience, your project, is going to impact the students that you choose to try to serve through your project. Okay. Katrina and Noah and Marceline, are there any other things that you would like to add before we try to capture some questions? I know we have some questions in the Q&A.
I think we've covered everything.
Okay. Noah, anything from you at this point?
No, I think we covered everything.
Okay, Marceline? Okay. All right, let's take a look at our Q&A. So here's a question, and committee members chime in. One question is SACAC membership still free for CBOs as well? I believe it is. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. Any thoughts on that, team?
I'm not certain.
Okay, all right. We will have to check that, but I'm sure that information will be on the SACAC website if you want to look in the membership.
I just found member relations. So
Okay.
who qualifies for free access membership? Public high school, college access counselors and staff. It also says nonprofit community-based organizations,
Okay,
college
great.
access counselors and staff. So I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, and thank you for the question. Another question, will we also get a copy of these slides? We may not send a copy of the slides to you, but please know we are going to arrange with SACAC to have this presentation attached to the ETD website within SACAC. So in a couple of days, if you are to go to the ETD page, you should be able to access this particular presentation. Okay, I see another question. If we are prepared to spend general operating funds on the project, do we list those as secured funds? So my answer to that would be yes. In our world as ETD grant committee members, secured funds means anything or any monies that you already have to help you with your project. We're not really concerned about where it comes from. We just want to know that you have, if you have indeed something somewhere else. Okay. Anything to add to that, Katrina or Noah?
No, no.
Okay.
And I've put the links in the as responses to the questions. So in the answered Q&A, there's links for both the things we just mentioned.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for doing that. The only other thing that I will add as we come to a close is when you are putting your emails in, if you're like me, sometimes you can think you know it like the back of your hand and accidentally leave out something. Be sure that your email address is correct, because that will be our main mode of communication with you. So as Katrina said earlier, please be committed to checking it. We will certainly be communicating with you through email. This grant is a wonderful opportunity for you to extend and build upon everything that you're already doing with your students to enhance the college-going culture of the students that you serve. So we strongly encourage you to participate, do the grant, take the time to do it, because for all those who have done it and have been recipients in the past, it has been invaluable. So please, please, please send us your applications. We are excited and we wait with bated breath to read every one of them. They are all great and always so exciting. So please don't hesitate to send those in. Any parting words, Noah, Marcelin, Katrina?
Cynthia, we had one other question from Victoria. What are the most common mistakes made by applicants?
Well, if I had to chime in, the first thing I would say, Victoria, is that, again, sometimes not getting that email right can certainly be one, and we miss out on opportunities to connect with you. So your contact information is key. Secondly, I would say not giving enough details is a common mistake. As we said earlier, give us all details, give us to know everything. Talk about your community, talk about the students that you want to serve, the goal that you're trying to achieve. Just remember that we are not a part of your community. So help us see all parts of your community, and that will help us to be able to capture everything or most everything that you want us to know about the grant. How about you, Noah, Katrina, Marcelin, anything to add to that?
I agree with Cynthia. SACAC is a large geographic region for NACAC, so it's we're familiar with our states and maybe the surrounding areas, but always assume we know nothing about your school or your community. So the more description, the better. There's another question, Cynthia, from Abby. Is there a downloadable application list of application requirements so we can prepare materials before submitting online?
So no, there is not a downloadable application, but please keep in mind that if you need to have a reference, this webinar will be available for you moving forward as soon as we can get it uploaded to our ETD page within the SACAC website. Okay, anything else, team?
I think we're good. I don't see any other questions.
Says
Okay,
how many
great.
grants will be awarded or have been awarded in the past?
Noah, Katrina, I think it varies from year to year. Would
think
you
it
all
re-
agree with that?
I think it varies depending on the budget that we have. And so
Mhm.
like Ms. Cynthia said, we try to spend all of it. And as long as we have enough quality applications, we'll try to fund as many as possible. We don't have a cap per se.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions in the chat? Or Q&A that I
Is
might be
there
missing?
another question popped up, is there a word limit?
Again, I think Katrina mentioned that sometimes the awards go from, in the past, they've gone from anywhere from $500 to, a little more than $3,000. Again, it just depends. I'll go back to what Katrina says. It just kind of depends on the quality of applications that we get, the asks, and what we're able to provide.
I
Katrina?
think my Southern
Yeah.
accent kicked in a little bit. Is there a word limit?
Oh, I'm sorry. A word limit. No, I don't think we have a word limit. Team?
No.
I'm not aware of one. I think, be thorough, but you don't need to write 600-word responses to each question either. It might
Right.
be overkill.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Agreed. All right, last call for questions before we close out. We want to be respectful of your time. Okay, well, just a final reminder, the application deadline, as Katrina mentioned earlier, is March 24th at 11:59. This is Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time, March 24th at 11:59. On behalf of our committee, we thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Marcelin. Thank you, Noah, for helping to present this to our membership. And members, we look forward to reading your applications. Everyone have a great day.
Mhm.